This week's parasha, Parashat Vayera, at the very start of the parasha, Avram Avinu is recovering from his Brit Milah. At the end of last week's parasha, Avram became Abraham. The special hay gets added to his name. Abraham does the bris, he does the Brit Milah. He really enters into the full covenant, really converting into Judaism, really becoming that first Jew. Abraham now at the start of our parasha is recovering from that surgery that he had at such an old age. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu this day takes out the sun, makes it a very hot day. Avram is sitting petach ha'oel kechom hayom. He's sitting by the entranceway of his tent in the heat of the sun, but also like the heat of the sun. Kechom hayom. He has a passion. He still wants to do mitzvot. He's waiting for guests to come by. Can I teach them Torah? Can I bring them under my eshel tree? Bring them tachat kanfei Shechina. Bring them close to Hashem. Do some kiruv, chizuk, spread monotheism to the world. Avram still wants to spread things to the world, but he's still in pain. He's still recovering. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a bit of a mercy on Avram Avinu, a bit of rachamim. Even though Avraham so desperately wants to do mitzvot, Hashem takes out the sun so Avram can rest a little bit. And Hashem himself comes to visit Avraham, to sit with Avraham, to talk with Avraham. But seeing that Avraham really wants those guests, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu ultimately sends him these three angels dressed as nomads, dressed as Bedouins, walking through the desert. And when Avraham sees the three guests, even though he's talking to Hashem right now, he stops what he's talking, goes to God. God, hold on one second, hold on. Please, Vayomer Adonai, im lama zechem be'einecha, al na tabor ma'al avdecha. It's a question. Who was Avraham speaking to? The guests or to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What the Gemara says? He's telling God, Hashem, please, hold on one second. Can I go do the mitzvah of הכנסת Orchim? Can I go do some chesed? Can I go do some inspiration? Can I bring them closer to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, says the Gemara, Gdולה הכנסת Orchim, מהקבלת פני השכינה. Greater is הכנסת Orchim, is bringing in those guests, than קבלת פני השכינה, than receiving the divine countenance. Greater than speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, talking face to face, being close to Hashem, is this bringing in the guest, the mitzvah of the chesed, הכנסת Orchim. What a big teaching. Now, many of the commentators are actually wondering, but wait a second, but isn't speaking to God greater than welcoming in these like three random guests that are like walking outside, these nomads? They weren't even necessarily looking for a place to stop. Like you're talking to God right now. Isn't that a much bigger deal? And I saw a bunch of different approaches to try to answer it. One approach says, yeah, speaking to Hashem is very, very nice, but is that actually a mitzvah? One of the 613 mitzvot is through Achnasat Orchim, is to do chesed for people. So while speaking to Hashem is a really high level, it's ultimately not a mitzvah, so he has to go do a mitzvah. Okay, that was one approach that I saw. But then I saw another approach. It goes in this angle, but from a much deeper perspective. I was listening to a shiur from Rav Ephraim Goldstein, and he writes as follows. He says as follows. He says, ultimately, relating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a really, really big deal. When you're now talking face to face, panim el panim, peh el peh. Okay, Avraham might not have been on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, but he's on this high level. He's speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's a really, really high level. But on the other hand, why were we created? Man was created to be God-like. So here's like an interesting, thing that takes place in the world. We speak sometimes about the holy angels up in the Shamayim, the different olamot above, all these spiritual realms that are so great. You have these seraphim and these ofanim. They're singing kadosh, kadosh, kadosh in the Shamayim. We know these angels are so holy. They're so spiritual. They're ruchani. They're less physical than us. So that in a certain sense, they're so much more elevated. They're so much greater than us. They're so much more lofty. They're so much more connected, closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and what Hashem is all about, so to speak. But on the other hand, why did Hashem create the world? Hashem didn't create the world for those angels. Hashem created the world for us. Hashem wanted a world where you have a human being who has free will, who could make decisions, who could make choices, who could mess up, but could also do really good and big stuff. That's the real purpose of creation. We said once in the past from the Chatam Sofer, the Petuchei Chotam, he says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu now later on in our parsha wants to destroy the city of Sodom, he says, can I hide what I want to do from Avram Avinu? Why would he want to hide from Avram Avinu what he wants to do? So they explain, it's like a funny language, either speak to Avram or don't speak to Avraham. So they explain that Avraham wasn't on the highest level of prophecy to know about all that would happen in Sodom, and therefore he wasn't on the level to get that kind of nevuah. But then Hashem says, why? Why was Avraham not on that level? Because Avraham is Avraham Ohavi. Avraham is the only one called the lover of Hashem. He was too busy trying to teach Aleph Bet to the world, trying to teach monotheism to the world. He was too busy working on other people, trying to inspire other people that he neglected, just sitting in a cave like the holy Chanoch who became the angel Matat. He wasn't doing that. He was too busy trying to spread Hashem's wisdom, Hashem's Torah, Hashem's emunah and bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Hashem says, ding, ding, ding. That's what I really want. Avraham is the first Jew. That we have all these Chanochs and Noachs and all these other holy people that might have existed before Avraham. That's not the goal. Says the Khatam Sofer, there are myriads and myriads, there's thousands and thousands of angels in the Shamayim. Hashem doesn't want another angel. Hashem wants a human being who could step it up. And how do you step it up? How do you be God-like? By doing good to others, by being a mashpia, by being a giver, by being a doer. Right now, when Avraham is talking to Hashem, it's one of the highest levels of revelation. But at this point, Avraham is the biggest receiver. You're talking to God, really, really holy right now, but all that's happening right now is you're the passive receiver. And that's awesome, and it's a really high level. But what the lesson over here is what Avraham is teaching us, or what this Gemara is teaching us, that ultimately, as great as it is to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our goal is to become God-like. Our goal is to try to be like God, to try to mimic God, to try to do things, to be Rahman, to be a Baal Chesed, to do Haknasat Orchim. That's the actual mitzvah that I think relates to our original answer, that speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a really great thing, but it's not a mitzvah. The purpose of this world is to do mitzvot, because when we do mitzvot, we ourselves are becoming better and greater people. And we're beginning to reach the purpose of why we're all here, to recognize what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all about. So one way to recognize what Hashem is all about is to speak to Hashem, that's true, but a much bigger way is to try to act like a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, try to mimic a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then you really demonstrate what God is all about, because we want to try to strive to be God-like, and that's what Avraham is telling Hashem right now. God, this revelation, this one-on-one is really, really awesome, but I see these guests happening right now, and we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent those guests. They were angels. HaKadosh Baruch Hu recognizes this as well, and this also is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu was picking Avram Avinu, because Avram actually gets it. The goal of mankind is to actually make a change in this world, and Avram wants to make that change. Shabbat Shalom.